another episode of The Next Fix. We've got Blake Hunt. Blake Hunt is a fellow comeback kid, if you will. He has been down those dark paths, and he has volunteered to come share those moments with us. So, Blake, how are you living today, brother?
Good, man. How are you?
Living the dream. Living the dream. And so, I see you knocking back that go juice.
Yeah. I work in a treatment center, and it's a little hectic today. So, yeah, I got to get ready for the day.
No, I hear you, man. Listen, I am not polished. I am not clean.
Yeah.
Am I off of booze and drugs? Yes. But am I living like a pure life where like I don't put anything that's got maybe some bad stuff in it, like in me? I'd be lying if I don't knock back some Red Bulls or whatever. So I'm right there with you, brother. Hey, at least it's not meth, man. So
that's
all right.
true. Yeah.
So Blake, let us know, man. I mean, clearly you're in a treatment center. You're helping out people, but like, what did it look like for you, man? What did it look like when it was nasty?
Yeah. I would say I'm like a stereotypical alcoholic. Like if you can picture a dark room with no contact with other human beings and just kind of like slugging a bottle of vodka, that was pretty much it. So it wasn't, I don't know, my story's just so normal, I guess. Like I had some things happen in my life and like booze just found me at the right time. You know, I had moved schools, I was uncomfortable in my own skin, and like when I found alcohol, all that went away. So started as like a weekend drinker, by college I was drinking 4 nights a week, but got good grades, had a good career, got into consulting and sales. Like it was like my life looked good enough on the outside that I could look at the drinking and be like, yeah, it's not that big of a problem. Started to have some issues, got that first DUI, went to detox for the first time. Like the first mild consequences started to come in. But again, it's like, well, I can handle this. I remember I like quit drinking for 60 days and I was like, see, like I can do this. Like it's no big deal.
Right.
And so like, that was kind of how it went. And like, my ex-wife, like every 2 months we'd have this huge blow up because I wouldn't come home or like something would happen in a major way because of alcohol. I'd apologize. I'd be a good boy for 2 weeks and then I'd do it all over again. And, so we were living in Wisconsin at the time. And I think where things really changed was we had a job opportunity out in Utah. We took it. I didn't really know anybody. And so I kind of became like this isolation drinker.
Right.
And I remember one day, there wasn't anything special about this day, but it was like, that day where normally I'd stop drinking and grab a cup of coffee in the morning. I went over to my bar and just like slugged a couple shots of vodka and like things just snowballed really fast from there. I started drinking like every single day. I couldn't really put it down. Like I was trying to manage it, but I knew I couldn't. So I think where it all kind of came to a head was, she gave me the ultimatum of like, you quit drinking or you get out. And I tried on my own to quit drinking and I'd make it 30 days or so and I'd relapse. And it was like the third time I just told her like, I can't do this. And I got drunk and I was super depressed and I told her I was going to kill myself. And she did what like a good wife does. And she called the police and they committed me to the mental hospital. And so I got to spend a week in the mental hospital. That was humbling. They took my shoelaces. They did all that good stuff,
Right.
And,
well, I want to touch on something that,
yeah.
For you and I, right? Like you and I, and
Mm-hmm.
as you had mentioned, this is a pretty normal story. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Cause that's who we're around. And that's like, and it's normal for me too, brother. Like but I think that is a scary place to be. Well, until you get a hold of it, it's a scary place to be. Why?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking back to when there was people that were normal, were seeing the signs, and they tried to tell me, that, we foresee this future for you, which is DUIs and alcoholism and all these things. And there were people that like, they didn't really get in. They weren't successful, but they tried.
Mm-hmm.
They tried, and they were trying to tell me what I was doing wasn't fucking normal. And so like, I get it, but it's scary, brother, like, it's normal for you, I mean, you're in a treatment center, I mean, you've
Yeah.
heard this, like, so many times, and it is rather
Yeah.
straightforward, just how you're mentioning it, right? Like, it started this way, snowballed into this, which led into that, and then every once in a while, everybody has a unique, like, health, like I was in a coma, or, or there's a, a really extenuating circumstance, where somebody might have went to prison for something, but it is rather like you said, right? Like the conversation comes with the wife, and it's like,
Yeah.
highway, or, get your shit together, or that's it, And so, I mean, it's scary, man, because I'm right there with you. It's all like, this is rather straightforward, and it's the
Yeah.
natural progression for people that are alcoholics or drug addicts. And so, yeah, man, it's scary for me to agree with you. Yeah, this is a rather straightforward. But where you're kind of at in the story here is that you guys, you made a move, right,
Yeah.
professionally, and then now you're on the dark side of things. Like, there's
Yeah.
no more party, there's no more social life. It's like, I'm trying to forget how shitty I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty much just like, I remember I had this day where I was like sitting on the couch and I realized I hadn't left that couch in like a week and a half. It was like, that's all I did. I sat there, I watched TV, but mostly just drank, like I don't remember what I watched. I just remember I was drinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, like my whole life, I had been convinced I could stop. And that was the first time I was like, no, I really need to stop. And I was like, holy shit, I can't. Like, I really, really can't. Like, I thought this was just a willpower thing. I thought it was like, okay, I see the consequences. I should stop. And it scared me to death when I was like, no, I actually just can't. Like, my brain will not let me just stop. And yeah, man, when I went into the mental hospital, like I'll never forget this woman I met there. She was homeless, but the one piece of clothing she still had was a Princeton Letterman's jacket. And she had been a Princeton tennis player, if I remember right. And that was all she had left. Like she had gotten a law degree. She had like been successful. And then she found, I think it was meth,
Yeah.
and she spent like the last 6 years just homeless in and out of institutions. And it was like, man, like that could be me, like it really could. I haven't hit that bottom yet, but like it's coming, and so that experience like really woke me up. I was like, I've got to do something about this. And so, you know, I think the comeback story that like I like to share with people is like, that was rock bottom number one. It wasn't like the last rock bottom. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, like I think that moment was where I made the decision to get sober, but sobriety came years after for me. So I left the mental hospital and like I went and did everything they told me to do. So I went to AA. I went to meetings every day. I got a sponsor and I strung together, I think it was like 14 months of sobriety, but like something was missing. I was like miserable during this time. And like I lost the wife I mentioned, like she left. I lost my job. I lost the dogs. Like I was sober, but I was miserable. And I lost more in that sober period than I lost all my years of drinking,
Yeah.
And it was just because like I think looking back on it, like I was so uncomfortable with myself at that time, that like just being sober with myself was so miserable that like it just came out of my pores and it came out on everyone in my orbit, like I hated myself. I could never forgive myself. Like I just had all this unresolved stuff with myself. And it just like AA did a lot of things for me in terms of like, mending my relationships with other people and like taking accountability and all these things, but it didn't fix the relationship with myself. It's the
Okay.
one thing AA couldn't give me. So, when I lost the job, I lost her. That was the first relapse, like I stayed strong for like 14 months. I relapsed. And this was, like the mental hospital was scary, but this period of my life is definitely the scariest. It was like my suicidal drinking stage. So
Yeah.
I would just like I wouldn't relapse to like have a beer or a couple drinks and relax. It was like I'd pop the cap off a bottle. I'd drink as much as I could to just like shut the lights off. And I
Shit. Yeah.
remember in that time, like I didn't want to die, but I didn't really care if I woke up, you
Yeah,
know?
I know that feeling. It's like the intention is that I was never intending, like, this is going to be the bottle that does it. But it was always like, well, if this is the bottle that does it, okay.
Yeah.
Like it's weird.
Yeah.
It's like the laziest suicidal thoughts ever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It
well,
is.
we'll see. I just
Yeah.
never, well, thank God I didn't, but but I know
Yeah.
that feeling is like, well, who cares if this is
Yeah.
the end, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think AA describes it as this in between phase where it's like, I can't imagine my life without it, and I can't imagine my life with it anymore, you know? So I'm just like stuck. And so during this time, like I actually ended up in the hospital. I counted it one time. I think it was 14 times in like a year. And like every time I went in, my blood alcohol level was between zero point 0.4 and 0.55. I mean, like I was drinking with the intent of like, maybe I wake up, maybe I don't. And, zero point 0.4 is where you die. And I was drinking well past that, but I kept waking up. I kept doing this, like go to the hospital, go to detox, go back home, convince myself I've got this. And so I did this over and over again for like over a year. And so the last time I had convinced a sober buddy of mine to move in with me, I was like, that's the answer, live with somebody with good sobriety. And I got a dog. So I was like, that's my answer. Like my distress tolerance was my dog threw up. And I was like so like torn apart that my dog threw up. I went and got a bottle and downed it over it. Like it made no sense.
Right.
That was like how my brain operated though. It's like any excuse I could find to just like blow up my life again, I'd take it.
Yeah.
So I downed a bottle. He found me and they took me to the hospital. And dude, I don't know what happened. I went to detox. They gave me the same speech, like, you should go to treatment. And I was like, all ready to tell them, like, thanks, no thanks. Like, I got this. And like something happened in that moment where I just said yes. And like, I still don't know where that came from. Some people call it a God shot, whatever it was, but it was like that moment where I finally just surrendered and was like, I'm not smarter than this thing. Like, I can't figure this thing out. Like, no matter how hard I try, I keep making it worse. Like, maybe I should go get help. And everything I needed clicked into place. My buddy recommended a treatment center. He was a connoisseur. He went through 18 of them. So he's like, this is the one you got to go to. And he sent me there. And like, it was everything I needed it to be. Like, I got to spend 60 days just working on my relationship with myself. And so I did 60 days of inpatient treatment. And what's funny is like, this was actually the office I did that inpatient treatment in. So my therapist sat in this exact office. I sat on that couch and like, this is where I got to work through all that shit. And so I did that. I did like an outpatient program for 4 or 5 months. Like I committed. That's the best way I can put it is like, I just committed to like listening to someone else and shutting the fuck up, like I stopped trying to figure it out myself and I just took advice and like everything clicked into place, it wasn't as complicated as I had made it out to be, but I actually had to be humble enough to listen to other people, and that's not an easy process. Like, when you've had like some measure of success in all these other areas of your life and someone's like, hey, but you don't have a choice when it comes to taking a drink or not, that sounds stupid. You're like, of course I can figure this out. Like, I can figure out my way through college and a career. Like I can figure out how to say yes or no to a drink, but I couldn't, and I had to be humble enough to finally admit that to myself to like, no, I don't have the answer to this one. So I think it all started like with just that moment of like, finally, like, I fucking give up,
Yeah.
like,
Dude, I mean, that's what's required, I believe, is the humility and then also especially in AA, right? It's understanding that there's a power greater than yourself and then kind of releasing that control to that power. Now, I want to know, okay, so you go through over a year of that rinse and repeat cycle,
Yeah.
right? And mine was the Baker Act here in Florida, right? So the Baker
Hmm.
Act is if you're a risk or a threat to either yourself or others,
Yeah.
it puts you in a 72-hour hold. And so I was using this as well, I was trying to use it as my springboard to get out, right?
Yeah.
And so there was that 72-hour mark would hit and they'd be like, all right, time for you to get out of here. And so
Yeah.
I kept going back. I kept thinking, okay, the same thing, man. So many
Yeah.
likenesses, right? Because I'd get out and I say, okay, well, this time I'm gonna do this. And right. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I got this time I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And so I kept trying to like piecemeal this thing together to figure it out. I was like,
Yeah.
I can figure this out. And like it was wild because like the more and more I had fallen or failed, or however you want to really describe it, the more I had
Hmm.
relapsed and went back and the more times the more that I was realizing and funneling myself into the release, man, right? The
Yeah.
humility and the release. And then eventually, like I went back to a cousin for it was what I had figured out for myself. I added a layer of accountability with her. That
Hmm.
made a big deal. That made a
Yeah.
big deal. But so for you, you're mentioning that, yes, it was the humility and it was the release, like, okay, you can't figure this shit out on your own and you're not outsmarting it. It's not like
Yeah.
that. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
But so you're in a treatment center now. I'm super curious, right? Like you're in the
Yeah.
same room where all of that happened. Like what
Yeah.
became of it? And then how did I guess once you're out of that, like when was your sobriety date? And then when was the time like you never looked back? And then now obviously you're working in the same treatment center. So what was that next stage that you would call sobriety?
Yeah. So I think the day I was admitted into the hospital was September 14th. So I've estimated I probably sobered up around September 15th at some point. So that's what I call my sobriety date, September 15th of 2022. Once I hit treatment, I've never drank again. But yeah, so it was kind of this wild experience where like once I got a taste of like, hey, this actually works. And it wasn't just that it helped me quit drinking, but it simplified all of the things in my life that I had struggled with up to this point, like treatment and recovery made my life simple in a way I didn't know I wanted until I got it. Like that's the only way I can describe it is that I had always looked at life like this complex system and I had to outsmart life all the time just to get ahead. And treatment taught me like, no, life's actually pretty simple and it's like here to be enjoyed. you know like
Yeah.
it's not a game that we're trying to beat here.
Mm.
And so but I mentioned I was like in sales and consulting and like that was my life up until treatment. But when I came here, I was like, I really like this. Like, I like being in a group of like minded people with similar stories to mine. And like every time I went into group therapy or individual therapy, I was like, I love this. Like,
Right.
most people are getting burnt out on it. And I'm like, I could go another couple hours. Like, I really enjoy this. And so, like 5 months sober, I had a therapist and she challenged me. She's like, why don't you go get a get well job being of service to other people? And so I went and, did the lazy thing. I went on Indeed and found like the first job that popped up. It was at an autism clinic. I knew nothing about autism, but I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good cause. And they hired me. And so I went and worked with like severely autistic kids at this clinic.
That's hard,
And
man. That's
it was
hard. Yeah.
oh, it was the hardest job I've ever I had no idea what I was signing up for. But dude, I remember it was like the second day and one of the kids had an accident. And I looked at my coworker and I'm like, so like who cleans them up? Like, and they're like, dude, what do you
Yeah.
think this is? Like, it's you, And so I had to like, my first instinct was like, do you know who I am? Like, I don't do this. And my second thing was like, no, this is like what I need. I need to like be humble and like, learn how to not think so fucking highly of myself. And like, I remember doing that. And I just like, as weird as it is, it felt so good, It
Right.
was just
Right.
like, damn, like I just did something for another person that, like it was just like a genuine act of kindness.
Yeah.
So I stuck with that job, and I knew it wasn't the right field for me. Like it wasn't my cause, but I got that feeling I was looking for. Like I went home and I felt good about myself every day. I felt like I had made a difference. And so at that point I was like, okay, I think this is the right direction. And I started looking into like getting my master's in social work, and so I decided to go to school. And right when I enrolled in school, I was like, all right, I'm going to go give treatment a shot. So my first job I took was like at a case manager at a treatment center for young men. It was a private treatment center, a lot of like young, rich, egocentric kids with drug and alcohol problems. And, dude, it was such a good experience for me. You know,
Now
it
let me
is,
ask you this though.
yeah,
Let me ask you this. All right, so and I commend you, right, for plucking out the silver lining because that autistic kid needed you.
yeah,
And it was just more visceral and more real because they needed you to wipe their ass or what,
yeah,
like it's so, but it's I mean, they needed you and you're the
yeah,
man. You have to do it. It's just in your mind, your ego has said, I don't clean up shit. I definitely don't
yeah,
wipe somebody else's ass. Like, what are you
yeah.
talking about? But it's need, it's still need nonetheless. And that person needed you. And so
Yeah.
and that's really beautiful how like you're able to say, okay, it wasn't ideal. This is not what I had
Yeah.
envisioned. This is not what I signed up for. But you got done and you said, okay, well, I handled that. And you pulled this lesson, a very important lesson. But let me ask you this. Okay. So do you identify with these like rich kid assholes a little bit more? Are you kind of like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I got you, kid. I hear what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I am you. Like you're not the autistic kid, but you're like, okay, I can
Yeah.
participate. I can participate in this push and pull, this relationship. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what it was there? Is that kind of
Yeah. It was so I think in therapy they would call it like transference, right? And so when I first got there, I'm like, I hate all these kids. I'm like, they're so egotistical, like, they want everything like that minute. They have no respect. And I'm like, dude, they're me, like
yeah,
finally, like somebody pointed that out to me. They're like, dude, the reason you have is these kids are mirrors for how you acted in your life. Like, no, I wasn't a kid with a trust fund, but like I was egotistical. Like I thought highly of myself. I thought people worked for me. I didn't have to, all of these things. And so it was the best experience I could have asked for. I don't know if they would say I was like, their shining star employee, because it was actually therapeutic for me in like a way where like I would get angry at these kids and then I'd have to like go back and look at like, why am I so angry at them? And it's like, because they just keep reminding me of myself, right? Like they remind me of this version of me that like just couldn't figure it out. So it was so good to like have that job and try to figure out like how to cultivate empathy for their situation, because it didn't come naturally to me. Like, you give me like a homeless meth head and like I can find empathy for him. You give me a rich kid with a trust fund and I immediately am like, nope, your problems are different and it's hard for me.
yeah, yeah.
So that treatment center, I think, gave me such a gift in that way, and that I was like forced to find it. And in a way, I think it helped me forgive that like part of myself as well.
Dude, that's wow. That's into professionally. I'm admiring the professional element to know it's not cool to treat them differently.
Yeah.
They're there and you are there for a reason to help. And so it
Yeah.
is that's not a professional path to take. Well, this person is different than that person. That's not the way
Yeah.
that's not how you help effectively. You have to help the both of them. And so what a magnificent development though. And one thing that from what you had mentioned earlier, like came to my mind about about the point of life and you kind of managing to realize through your own journey that it is about the experience and the simplicity. It's not
Hmm.
about the finish line. And so a really really cool line that came from Alan Watts is like
Hmm.
to think about it like dancing. Like when you
Yeah.
dance, the goal is not to end up at a certain place on the floor. The whole
Yeah.
reason why you dance is to dance, right? So
Yeah.
we are dancing now in like
Yeah.
for me, that was a really big, because I feel like this is something you and I share. We're very like, especially being in a sales kind of, pedigree, if you will, right? It's about getting to the top, the leaderboard.
Yeah.
It's about getting that sale, achieving some kind of X number of dollars, or there's always some finish line. There's always a
Yeah.
metric. And when you have those metrics, and if that is the only way that you live your life and you don't have a more visceral experience in the meantime, man, you're missing out on a lot of stuff. You're missing out
Yeah.
on a lot of stuff. And so where are you at now? You're in the treatment center now. And you were working with kind of the teenage kind of misguided youth.
Yeah.
So what does it look like for you these days?
Yeah, so when I got about a year into school, I started talking to the clinical director at the treatment center I had went through. It's this place called Wasatch Recovery here in Utah. And I was like, look, I'd love to come full circle if you'd have me. And she's like, we'd love that. So yeah, it was actually exactly a year ago, I think. Maybe it was a year ago and 2 days, something like that. I
Awesome,
actually
man.
I actually started here as a therapist intern. It was like you mentioned Alan Watts, right? And Alan Watts is like, there is no future, there is no past, there's only now. And that was like that first moment of that. It was like I walked into like the same room where I did group therapy and I got to be on the other side of that. And I was like, that was that moment where I'm like, there's nowhere I would rather be than where I am right now. And I just like lived in it, and that's been my experience being here is it's the most frustrating place on earth, like trying to get people to see that like they can move past this. Like they do have all the tools they need if they'll shut up and listen, like,
Right, 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 right.
we have to do. But it's just like, it's so rewarding seeing people have that click for the first time, like actually cultivate hope for their life moving forward. Like, yeah, it's just, it's just been this really cool thing to like, it's almost like passing down what somebody once gave to me. That's why
Right.
AA works. I think it's the same thing here, right? It's like I get to give away what somebody once gave to me, and there's no better feeling than that.
Awesome, man.
And like, I think what's different than like the way I looked at life 5 years ago is that like I used to think everything I was giving away to somebody else was some like creation of my own mind, like I was this brilliant person. And it's like everything I hand down to people now is stuff I've stolen from other people in recovery.
Right, right.
It's like 10% of it's mine and 90% of it is just like stuff that worked for me that someone else was nice enough to like give to me.
Yeah.
They gave me the time of day and then they cared enough about me to give me this information to use, and I just used it.
Yeah.
And that's a cool way to look at life now. It's like, it doesn't have to be Blake's creation. It's like, no, it's like, I just have a lot of really wonderful people in my life that have given me the right advice at the right time. And I just had to take it.
Yeah. And your recognition of patterns is again kind of going back to where we first started talking about this, is that you saying that your story is rather straightforward, and of course myself recognizing it. There's all those milestones that are
Yeah.
here so many times that can be quite useful in a
Yeah.
place like where you're at now,
Yeah.
because it helps you predict what may come next for them.
Mhm.
And so, and of course, the delivery of that message is the art, right? And so I'm sure
Yeah.
you're getting pretty good at that, right? Because you can't just say, "Hey, I know where this is going. I know where this is going, kid. This is what comes
Mhm.
next for you." If you deliver it like that, even though you might be somewhat correct, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not how you do it, man. Everybody would be kicking and screaming to get the hell out of there, and then say this guy's an asshole. Like
Yeah.
even though you may know what you're talking about. So like that nuance is what I've always, the people that are good in the space that you're in, like people that are good, they have a nuance, they have a
Mhm.
delivery to say, not even say like, hey, I know what's coming next for you, but like, connect and say, I understand,
Yeah.
to a degree of where you're at. And so maybe we can figure this thing out together and move forward productively. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, dude, I think that I can hear it like in your heart, man. Like you are embodying this to a really high level, and I think that's well. What does it look like for you these days? Other like, okay, the first wife didn't
Yeah.
develop. But what else? What other elements of your life have kind of come together other than say the professional development there?
Yeah, dude, it's been wild. It's so when I took this leap, like change careers, do all this, like it was scary. I had no idea what my life would look like. And probably if you asked me at the time, like I think a lot of people say this in long-term recovery, right? They're like, I couldn't have imagined what my life looks like now. Like I would have been selling myself short like 5 or 6 months out of treatment. I met my current partner, long term girlfriend. And so we've been together ever since. Like, she's been like a wonderful part of my life. We have 3 dogs, a nice house together. Like, I have a group of friends that I can count on, like I have the job I've always wanted. In my free time, like I get to golf, I get to go into the mountains, I get to do all of those things. Like it's just, yeah, it's just the life. Like it's just like it's simple, and it's just like it's all about like really showing up to work with the intent to help others and then just enjoying life, right? Like to your Alan Watts quote, right? It's like just enjoying the dance, It's like
Right, right.
it's almost like I got this bonus round at life and I just get to enjoy it doing what I want to do, and that's just amazing. And I remember it was like I was like 11 months sober, and I sat down and had a cup of coffee, and I realized my head was just kind of quiet. I was like,
Mm.
oh my God, I haven't felt that peace in so long, man, And it's like getting to live that every day. It's like that is just it's so wonderful,
Yeah. Now, is your girlfriend, is she was she did does she have a history with addiction and stuff like that? Or like is she familiar with it? How did you kind of navigate that if she's not?
Yeah, no. So you mentioned like you don't live the cleanest life. I didn't do everything perfectly in recovery either. So when I met her, she was a lawyer and I was a dude in like outpatient treatment. And so naturally I'm like, well, I've probably got to stretch the truth a little bit here if I'm going to get her to be interested in me. And, so when she asked, she's like, so she ordered a drink. I didn't. She asked me why. I told her I was in recovery. She's like, oh, that's awesome. For how long? And I'm like, 18 months, And and so at the time I'm like, well, it's just a dating app date. Like it's probably not going anywhere, whatever. And then we started getting serious and I'm like trapped in this lie, And I'll never forget, it was my 1 year sober anniversary and my dad came out, and she and my dad were sitting together at my sober softball game. And he's like, so where are we going to dinner for Blake's 1 year sober anniversary? And she's like, 1 year. And dude, I got in the car and I've never seen someone so mad. Like she was furious, and so, I literally got to the point where like my defense was, I was like, well, I'm in recovery. I got to live one day at a time. And like, you keep bringing up the past and I can't keep revisiting this topic. And I'm like trying to defend myself in all these AA and treatment ways. And so we ended up like having to work through that and therapy. Like she had invited me to move into her house under those pretenses, like it was a big deal.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. So there's
And so like I tell people that part of my story because it's like I didn't do things perfectly, like there were a lot of things I did well, and then there's a lot of things you'd look back on and be like you made that mistake and stayed sober, and yeah, I did, but like I had to learn from all that shit, like
right.
that one big lie that I told her, like I've had to be honest with her and forthcoming from this point on, like I had to make a decision at that point that like I've been lying my entire life and that had to end if I really wanted a true relationship with her, like I couldn't live the relationships I was used to, which were full of lies and half truths. Like I had to be completely honest with this person. And so it's been constant learning, like I was so used to living a certain way that I'm conditioned that way. And I have to relearn how to do all these things sober and normal. But it's been interesting. At first, I was like, no alcohol in the house, and she was cool with it. But today, if she has a bottle of wine in the house or some beers, I just it doesn't interest me. Like, I
Right.
have too good of a life to blow it up over a Coors Light.
Right.
It's
Right.
not worth it to me.
Dude, and that's interesting. You know, I did my I'd like to cheer you on for owning that, navigating that scenario. I thought for sure you're gonna be like, hey, what were you gonna, I lied. What did you want me
Yeah.
to do? Like you would have walked probably away had I been
Yeah.
honest. But getting to the other side of that, that's a huge win for the two of you, right?
Yeah.
Because you made it through that challenge. And then as you had mentioned, like you're learning, she's learning too.
Yeah.
Right. And so with my wife, she's from the Philippines. And if you were to, and actually a girl I had dated before her, she actually did do a background check on me. And so it was like she did a really good background check. It was like a lot of pages. And like my license had been suspended like 3 times by the time I was 21.
Yeah.
And then, I tried to, well, my mother sent me to jail for trying to murder her with a kitchen knife. I tried
Nice.
to cut her head off, right? So this is
Yeah.
all written down. This is
Yeah.
attempted murder with a deadly weapon, assault and battery, like heavy hitters, man. Like when you
Yeah.
read this in print and that's all you have, there's no context, and you're just like reading this, like
Yeah.
who the hell wouldn't turn and run for the hills? And so, you know, being in this relationship, they were married now, but being in this relationship and her being from another country, I've had to communicate so many things tenderly, right?
Mhm.
But also honest, right? Because I had
Yeah.
learned the lesson that you had learned. Because I most likely at 18 months, I would have spewed out the same kind of,
Yeah.
I would have probably lied too. Because you're just trying
Yeah.
to get off of the ground here. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, look, because for me, it's like I didn't have a car, I didn't have a license. It's like you can't even get a date with these kinds of things on
Yeah.
paper. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, navigating that with a partner, it can be a strength because I'm sure it is now for the two of you, right? Getting
Yeah.
past that. But for myself, like like, finding somebody that is on the outside of the recovery space, I think it's beneficial long term if you can
Yeah.
make it happen and make it work, which you have. And
Yeah.
so, and that's what I'm doing too, right? Like I've written a book, I've got this podcast, but her family in the Philippines, they're ignorant to it because they're not around it.
Yeah.
It's not like the States where they're like, oh, there's people that are going at their addictions and alcoholism, and that's what they call it as recovery. It doesn't exist there like that. It's
Yeah.
not a thing. So they're like, oh, he used to do drugs. And so
Yeah.
there's a bit, I've got more work to do. I've got more work to do.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking at you with very admirable eyes. Like, okay, that's how you do it, right? You just
Yeah.
work through it. You learn from it and keep moving, keep navigating. That's cool, man. So now how long have the two of you been together?
I think we're like close to 2.5 years. So yeah, I think the best thing that came out of that was we ended up in couples therapy, and I realized like how many things I had to work through with her, relating to just like all this shame and guilt I had from like my failed marriage. Like I did not show up well in that marriage, being in the depths of alcoholism. And what's cool now is like I get to show up for my current partner, Emily, in a totally different way. That's very healing. It's like, wow, I see myself acting differently in this relationship than I did before. And it sort of solidifies like you've left that chapter of your life behind you, like
Yeah.
these things are rooted in you and you're like, you've become this different person, and that's really cool. I think being with a partner, I think without a partner, you don't get to see that as clearly, but
Right, right, right.
she's kind of the mirror, like how my relationship is going with her is kind of how my recovery and my relationship with me is going.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
very
cool.
cool. Yeah, she's a lawyer, right? So
Yeah.
she's no dummy. And so
No.
like she's kind of seeing you grow, but man, what a way to show up, like you had mentioned, right? And
Yeah.
and what can you do, right? Like that last marriage, it was a shit show. And is
Yeah.
largely, I'm not saying it, none of it was her fault, but largely your fault. You're owning that. You're being
Hmm.
responsible for your portion of that. Dude, it's such what a great life that you have, man. You can see just
Yeah.
how excited you are, so happy to smile and talk about,
Yeah.
it's freaking awesome. Well, what's next for you, Blake? What do we got? What do we got coming on the horizon?
Yeah. So the plan is like enjoy my time here as much as I can, you know? Like this was the place I got sober. It's still a program I believe in. Like I love my coworkers. And so I don't see myself leaving here anytime soon. And then on the side, I started a sober coaching business. I wanted to get into that and just do like I just wanted to have like my own thing. Like I've always wanted to have just kind of my own like little business where I just get to do what I want and help people in the way I wanted to. So I started that a couple months ago, BlakeHuntRecovery.com. And, you know, it's just like my space where like I can help people. I can write whatever I want on my blog and like, you know, probably why you do this podcast, right? Like it gives you this degree of freedom to kind of like talk about what you want to talk about in recovery. So it's been really fun, really cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of what I got going on.
That's
Hopefully
awesome.
get married soon. We're talking about that and even maybe having a kid. So life's good, man.
Dude, well, I've got a 16-month-old son. It
Nice.
has changed. It's changed everything. And here I am.
Yeah.
I'm 44 and I've got him. So
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand it, man. And
Yeah.
what I plan, this is big for me too, is that how I'm going to navigate, because he'll never know that guy who I was. And that's a blessing. However,
Yeah.
I need him to know of him.
Yeah.
I need him to know of him because I feel that it would be advantageous for him to, you know, stay clear of it, because
Yeah.
my blood is in him. And so
Yeah.
I'd be foolish to think that there isn't just some of the same elements that I had, you know, fallen into the pitfall of, you know, letting them kind of take over. Those traits exist in him. So this is going to be an adventure, my friend. And
Yeah.
I haven't figured it out by a long shot, but this is where
Yeah.
I'm at, is like, okay, I need him to know of that person, but
Yeah.
you know, I plan on trying to be the best I got, right? I plan on being
Yeah.
the best I got. And so that's all we can really do, brother. And
Yeah.
so listen, I'm going to have everything in print for everybody can come check you out, man, in your new business. And, you know, I wouldn't, it's always tricky when somebody's working at a treatment center. It's not like a car wash. Like, come on and down and see
Yeah.
Blake. Like,
Yeah.
I hope nobody has to come see you.
I know. That's the weird part about this job, right? It's like I hope someday I work myself out of a job, you know?
Right.
But,
Like if business
Yeah.
is bad, that's
Yeah.
a good thing, right? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then, so it's, but hey, it's a noble pursuit. It's a noble pursuit.
Yeah.
And you have come full circle, man. And so I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing that. And thank you for showing up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, man. All right, guys, this has been another episode of The Next Fix. See you on the next one.